Great.
3, 2, 1. Welcome to the Lightforge. This is ADWCTA.
This is Merps. Let's talk about the core set, the set that we knew was coming and finally arrived.
They revealed it. Everything.
They
The
revealed it.
entire core set. It is tiny.
Yeah, well, we knew the exact number, but for those of you who don't know, a brief recap. Blizzard, even before BlizzCon, announced that they were coming out with the core set to replace the kind of classic and basic cards. They contain a selection of 235 cards, some from basic and classic, some from certain expansions, some from Hall of Fame. There's new cards as well. When we get the next expansion, the core set is going to be the foundation of standard, along with all card sets from Year of the Phoenix. That's Ashes of Outland, Skull and Man's Academy, Madness at the Darkmoon Fair, and also the Darkmoon Races mini set, along with the new expansion. And like I said, the core set, that is your standard bundle. That's what you're going to be playing with. So, huge change from before. We've been playing with these basic classic cards for forever. Blizzard has tweaked them somewhat with Hall of Fame. They nerf, they buff, they do this, they do that. But now we get a complete overhaul.
Complete overhaul. And that means we are actually going to do our core set analysis today. This is what you're going to get. We got a lot of requests to do a card review or something for it. But it's the core set. You know what's in the core set. If you want to know what's in the core set, go to the website, look at all the cards. They tell you what the cards are there. There is no way to do a review of this as if we haven't been playing with the core set this entire time. Because we have been.
Think people understand what they were asking for. They were like, "Oh, are you going to do a card by card review?" I'm like, "You need a review of Fireball? You need a review of Hex?
Enchanted
Really?
Ravens and Druid now.
Great. We've talked about it before, and I get it. It's just it's one of those things where I've seen the request, and I'm like, do you actually know what you're asking for? Are you? But I do appreciate that people still find a somewhat relevant sometimes. So
We
I
will
do
be
appreciate
doing the big card by card review for the expansion when it comes out, but not for the core set. We're going to go over the 20-something new cards that are in the game today pretty quickly because they're not all that interesting. And for all the buffs, we'll go over, as we go over the classes, anything that is game-changing potentially. But really, the cards that they buffed, they got buffed. They got better. What do you want us to say? It's not... what's an example? Assassinate is now 4 mana instead of 5. We pretty much knew it was coming, and it came.
Yeah.
Lightning Storm now always deals 3 damage. Better than before. Fire Elemental deals 4 damage instead of 3 now. It's better than before. Sprint is 6 mana instead of 7 now. It's better than before. It's just, they didn't, and none of the buffs were mechanically game-changing. Bluegill, instead of a 2-1 charge, is a 3-1 rush now.
Much
great.
worse than before. Hate it. Terrible. Terrible.
I'm trying to look at it. Is there anything you even have to watch out for on the buffs list in the neutrals, for example? Maybe Stormwind Champion is more relevant now? I mean, I'll take that back. Stormwind Champion is more relevant now. A lot more relevant. You will see it. It is good. Big Game Hunter is now draftable. It is still not good, but it is okay. Gurubashi is still not good with the 1 additional health, but it was okay, and it's even more okay now. These are the analysis you get, right? Flesh Eating Ghoul is pretty good now because it's a 3/3 instead of a 2/3 now.
That one stat is everything.
Yeah. Whereas Raid Leader being a 2/3 does not matter all that much because it's a Raid Leader. It's understated anyway for a 3-drop.
But, it helps it.
Yeah, it helps it. I mean, Raid Leader I thought was always underrated. So, they're they did things that made sense, right? And then once you start playing with it, you don't have to look out for any of this. Just know they're a little bit better. The cards that were buffed. Really nothing hugely mechanically changing. I would say in terms of the shapes of the game, because you won't even be able to ever get a pure core set experience because it's going to come with one, a brand new expansion, and two, a whole bunch of other expansions. So it's just nobody, like we said this before, right? Like no one could tell you what the effects of the core set are on a detailed basis, and if they're telling you that they could tell you that, they're lying, or you're misinterpreting them more or less, because it's not possible. You will never get the core set, and you're not adding the core set onto anything. It is a whole new game.
Yep. It's important to kind of always remember what Blizzard's philosophy was in doing stuff like this. It wasn't to necessarily like change up the game in a dramatic way. A lot of it, what they wanted to do was just bring cards that have been irrelevant for a decent period of time back into relevancy, or try to do it at least. Whether it's by getting rid of some cards through the rotation or whatever that might have overshadowed them. And also, you got to bring it to 2021 power levels.
Mm-hmm.
Fire Elemental is a great example where, even for Arena, because obviously for Constructed, like we're not talking about Constructed. Let's just talk about Arena, right? And I remember when we still had the tier list, sad, people were surprised because other people still rated Fire Elemental as like one of the best cards, if not the best card in Shaman, one of the best cards in the game. And for a while, we've been relative to other people down on Fire Elemental. And it's crazy because like people are just like, oh, it's a 6/5 that deals 3 damage. I'm like, yeah. And my explanation is it's just a 6/5 that deals three damage. And if that doesn't do it for you, that's as far as I can explain it.
Like
because
it's just not
like
powerful enough. Like you have mage scribes. Right. Mage scribes are neutral.
Yeah, that should trigger something in you where if I say it's just a 6/5 that deals 3 damage, and if you don't get it, then I'm like, I don't know if we can have a discussion. Because like, and it was still good. It was still rated like
it's a mid premium.
Good. Right. It was like a small premium, right? Like on our list. But that's a perfect example where when the game first came out, that was like one of the cards. And I remember I had a Shaman draft with, it was either 6 or 7 of them. This was back when it was easy to draft like that. And it went 12-0 so easily.
Yeah, oh yeah, because it should have dealt, by standards back then, it should have dealt 1 damage, and it dealt 3. So you got 2 more damage worth of stats, which is an insane swing back in the day.
Right.
And now, you know what 2 extra damage is? Nothing. Like, they just added onto cards. Like, a good card versus an okay card will just give you 2 extra damage.
These days, Taunt is free, along with a small additional bonus as well. Yep. That's sort of what's included in the package. So if you talk about vanilla stats, before there was a cost to everything. Look at MVP, right? For those of you guys who don't know what MVP is, that is your glorious 3 mana, 2/3 taunt with Enrage. But MVP is definitely not this. It never really was the standard, but it definitely is not the standard these days. Where if you just look at something like Circus Amalgam, right? Like that's the standard power level that we are at. It's like you get vanilla stats, you get a taunt, you get bonuses. Yeah, there's a downside to that. It can get like, you know, freaking hungry crabs. But more often than not, you're able to use the all tribes tag more than your opponents can punish you for it. So that's kind of the power level. And Blizzard had to bring it up to there because they just had too much stuff that was stuck in 2014.
Yep. And they got rid of a lot of cards, and some of them there's nothing wrong with. It's just they needed to get rid of half the cards, right? So some stuff went, and other stuff got buffed. The cards that went, they could have gotten buffed too. Blizzard just didn't go that way. They had a list, right? Cuts had to be made in order to keep the core set small, and some things were just casualties. Like, was there really something wrong with like a fairy dragon? No, it was fine. Croc is still in the game, right? But Raptor's gone. Like, these are like Amani's gone, and Amani has always been a totally fine 2-drop as far as power level goes. This is not like, it's not like everything that left was a Frostwolf Grunt here, or like a Master Swordsmith. A lot of totally okay cards that you are used to playing with are just no longer in the core set. And we're not going to go over everyone that left because, okay, you evaluate things one of 2 ways. You either evaluate what is there as if it's like a new thing, or you evaluate what has changed because you have a baseline from before. The core set is in this awkward place where we can't review it as a new thing exactly because we know all these cards. It would be a giant waste of time. And yet, it is so different from what happened before that there is not even a comparison to be made. Like, if I'm like, oh, so we lost the following 2-drops in the meta, you would be like, and like, what's the point of that? How does that help me? It doesn't. So we're not gonna do that. So just go look at the list of cards that are remaining in the meta and the new cards they added and how they buffed it, and just pretend it's a new game.
That's the easiest way.
Yeah, it's really the easiest way. And there's no shortage of 2-drops or 3-drops. There's exactly one gap that exists in this new meta, and that gap is at 6-drop. There are no neutral 6-drops. There's Gadget and Auctioneer, and nothing else. Boulderfist Ogre is gone. Nothing takes its place. Nothing. You get to 7, and you have a Stormwind Champion, but nothing at 6.
And for those of you who love doing but actually, no, we're not counting legendaries, okay? Like, legendaries, no. Yeah. I understand there is, Cairn, there's all of that stuff. So for those of you guys who love saying, well, actually, ADWCTA, no. Legendaries
are not cards.
Not part of it.
So going on after 7, at 8 you get Arcane Devourer, which is again not really a drop, but it's a large card at this point. You're really not like in the drop system anymore anyway. And then you have a Sleepy Dragon, which is making a comeback. Sleepy Dragons, by the way, are no longer good, in case people are wondering. Sleepy Dragon is not a good card. It is a serviceable 9-drop, though, if you need a giant taunt, which is kind of what it's in this game for, I assume. So the neutral part of the core set really thins out real fast after 5-drops. It's not even like they have that many 5-drops either. They have like a 3, but their 5-drops are good, right? That's what's good about it, right? They have Gurubashi Berserker, now newly buffed with 1 more health. They have Stranglethorn Tiger, which has not been buffed and didn't really need a buff, which is a pretty standard 5-drop, even like in current metas. Not a premium, but like a normal 5-drop. And then they have this, that's a legendary. So those are your 2 5-drops. So they're serviceable. Nothing on 6. 1 thing on 7, actually 2 things. Baron's Stable Hand is epic, but it got a buff, so now it's a 7-mana 5/5 summon a random beast, which actually makes it a decent drop. So you have 2 drops at 7. 3 actually if you count Stormwatcher, which doesn't quite work stat-wise, but at 7 mana you can like lose a couple stats and still pretty much be on curve. So 7, like before you had a very nice like 2, 4, 6 kind of deal, right? And then 3s are weird, and then 5s are weird, and then there's nothing after 6. Well, now everything's fine, and then you get to 6-drops and it doesn't exist, and then 7-drops are back, and then 8-drops don't exist, and then there's 1 9-drop. That again is also understated. But 3s are here now. Like Spider Tank is in the core set. For those who are wondering whether Spider Tank will be in the core set, Spider Tank is in the core set. Stoneskin Basilisk is in the core set. Jungle Panther is still in the core set. Injured Blade Master is still in the core set. Ice Rager replaced with Magma Rager. Always want to call it Fire Rager. So you have very normal 3-drops now. There's no longer that old weird like absence of stuff on 3 in the classic core set. So they basically did what everybody thought they were going to do, but then they trailed off after 5 with a huge bump in 7 for no good reason. Like, that's the neutrals that are going through, and that's about all we'll say about the neutrals. We're not going down the list with every single card that's like coming back or like whatever. But we are going to go now and talk about all the new cards, like actual new cards that never existed before in Hearthstone and are now in the classic set. Are now in the core set. We're going to go over them one by one, and after that, we're going to go over classes and talk about how each class is now. Because the old class is gone. Mages don't exist anymore. New mages exist. Druids don't exist anymore. New Druid exists. And we can't say much about the classes because they're just core cards. They don't exist in a vacuum. There's really not that many cards. I don't know how many class cards there are per class. I could probably look this up, but it is not a lot. I'm going to go to Druid and just count. 5, 10, 15, 16. There's 16 cards, and of those 16 cards, one's a legendary. So there's 15 non-legendary cards. You're really not going to have like a backbone with that few cards, right? Because you get like 8 cards in an expansion. So the core set is effectively 2 expansions. That's how big it is. That's it. So there's this core set that is the equivalent size of 2 expansions that's always in the meta. It used to be the size of like 4 expansions, maybe even 5 expansions. That's why the core set always felt like they had to, like the core set always felt like a big part of the game because of that. I mean the basic and classic set. That's just not the case anymore. So I think what I hope they're going to do, and this is my biggest concern with the core set, and I bring it up every time since they've told us the numbers, they need to add stuff in the arena. Like, the number of old sets that they use needs to be increased by a bare minimum of 2 new sets. Probably 3 new sets. Because I always wanted an extra set, but whatever. Like, maybe 2 big sets and 1 small set or something. But they need to do that, or else you are going to see every single mage get offered 4 fireballs. Like, that's just what will happen. Because there's not enough cards in the pool anymore. So yeah, really hoping that happens. Something else you might change, you might see, or like we might hear from the devs on about Arena when it gets closer to actually launching, is the current penalty on neutral, classic, and basic cards. Like Yetis are seen half as often as they should be seen if they were just a normal neutral card, because they're in the classic and basic set. It doesn't apply to class cards, just neutral cards. We don't know if that's still applying. That rule is still applying to the core set or not. In theory, there's no reason for it to keep applying to this core set because they've already slimmed everything down, and those are really the freaking core. Like, but you know, we'll see. Like, effectively, the offering rate of Yetis has already been slimmed down if you add new sets so that you don't get 4 fireballs every game, right? So you don't need to like pull it down even more. But okay, you have anything you want to talk about before we get into the new cards?
No, let's just talk about the new cards. New cards are interesting.
All right, let's go to new cards. Let's go class by class. We're gonna do Demon Hunter last, and otherwise go by alphabetical order.
Oh, okay, sure.
So the first new card, and we're not going to show it on screen because I don't have an easy way to do that setup. It's kind of a rush thing we're putting together here. But you know, if people listening to this on a podcast can't see it anyway, and we will describe to you everything about the card.
Describe everything.
Describe everything. So it is a green-haired lady with purple skin. Making green magic, wearing a dusty gold amberish colored dress, shawl. And she has very pointy ears. This would be a much better description if I knew anything about WoW and could tell you what she is besides a druid. So this is a druid card. It is the only new druid card. It is a rare card. It is a creature. It is 4 mana, 3/5, so a little bit below normal 4-drop stats, and with a battle cry. The next spell you cast this turn costs 3 less. That's good. This is a good card.
That is quite good. Look, this is what I mean by they're bringing things into 2021. This is a perfect example. You get a little bit understated. They want some pop-off potential. You definitely got it with the 4-drop that they introduced. They limit it somewhat. You can't like bank it because it's only the next spell you cast this turn. But holy cow, it is so good. You might not even want to use all of it. But, you know, on 4, you can cast the Power of the Wild. You can, on 5, you know, cast this. And then, I don't know. Like, you can do
lots of stuff.
You can do lots of stuff.
Depending on the meta, depending on what cards are there, you can do stuff.
Yeah, turn 5, you can do Nordrassil Druid plus Soul of the Forest. Soul of the Forest is coming back, by the way. So lots of options there.
Yep. But you actually can't do a lot. We'll get to it later because they totally gutted Druid, but separate story.
There's a reason I only mentioned Power of the Wild and Soul of the Forest.
Because they don't have other cards anymore. But okay, so that's the only Druid card. It is Nordrassel Druid. Next, we have Hunter. Hunter has also only one card entering, and it is a cool card. It is Selective Breeder, 2 mana, 1/1, Battle Cry. Discover a copy of a beast in your deck. So you basically get to tutor beasts out of your own deck now. And on top of that, compared to the normal 2 mana searching for spells that Priest has, that we already knew about before this, you get like an extra 1/1 body on the board. It's not there's no tag on it. It's just like a dude with like tusks, but he's like a humanoid dude.
Wow, great description.
He has blue hair, green skin.
good.
I'm really into green skin.
Yes. It's like you're seeing the WoW world for the very first time. The first time you've actually paid attention to any of this stuff.
Yeah.
But Selective Breeder, it's good. They're obviously going for a beast theme with Hunter. They gave him lots of beast synergies. This is a decent card. Once again, we're talking about 20, 21 power levels. 2 mana, 1/1. It's not just drawing. It's like you're discovering a specific thing, which is a beast, and you're not you're discovering like to further your synergies. So just really powerful, but 2021.
So what does this mean? It means that all decks get swingier. You're gonna see this as a theme, right? The Nordrassel Druid was a big swing card too. Selective Breeder is a huge deck quality swing card. If you have a good beast, you're always gonna get it, right? That's kind of the point. That's why this card exists in the game. Blizzard wants to cut down on the RNG here. Okay. So Selective Breeder. Next up, we're not going to go over Legendary, so we're going to skip Mage. Mage has a Legendary, but it's not particularly... I mean, it's amazing, but it's not particularly... I don't want to talk about it.
Interesting. Sure.
Let's go on to Paladin. Paladin has 2 epic cards joining the group. One is a secret. The secret is called Reckoning. After an enemy minion deals 3 or more damage, so that's to anything, just 3 or more damage. Could be attacking your face, could be attacking a minion, destroy it. So the minion would have already dealt the damage. The damage still gets dealt. It's after an enemy deals 3 or more damage, but then you get to destroy it. So it is very much like Corruption, except it's a secret form.
Right. I mean, for Paladin secrets, which, let's face it, have not always been the best, this is pretty decent. It definitely makes it, along with Noble Sack, which is what people, which is also in the core set. I like what it does. So, getting a little bit ahead of myself, but Paladins have Avenge, Noble Sacrifice, and Reckoning. And with secrets, you always want to look at the totality of the secrets. Because if it's one secret, blow your mind here, guys, it's not very secret, okay? Like, if you know it literally every single time. Or for rogues, for the longest time, it was effectively one secret, right? Or just like 2 secrets, because their choices were so bad. And so niche. Like, there were some that were just way out there, so not useful, such that you never played around it because like they were so crappy you didn't even care. Paladins here, part of the reason that Reckoning is good, it's included in a good package. Avenge, Noble Sacrifice, Reckoning. You can see how that can, how number one, someone could draft any of those because they're all decent, and how they might be thinking, well, okay, like I'm in one of those situations where if I do the wrong quote unquote move, it screws me. All of these are draftable. All of these could be played in this situation. And like, it just creates all these situations where it puts the non-Paladin player in a tough spot. Reckoning, fills in some of the weaknesses of the others. So I like it. It's great. And I like how they created this pretty good secret package for Paladin. Because for the longest time, Paladins have been blah at best with all of their secrets.
Yep. And like Reckoning is good, but it's not like super OP or anything. Like it's just it's better than the other two. Um, Next up, we have Pursuit of Justice, another epic card. It is 2 mana. Give +1 attack to Silverhand recruits you summon this game. I just hate the design of these kinds of cards. Like, for the rest of the game, do whatever. It's like Hearthstone doesn't show this very well in the UI, and it's just whatever. There's also possibly no impact on the in the game on the turn you play it. Like, it's just whatever. But in the arena, this is obviously really, really, really good because it changes all your hero power for the rest of the game to be something way better. And you'll find out that there's a lot of Silverhand recruit cards in the core set now, actually.
Yeah, this the Pursuit of Justice. It's an interesting card because I think I can see some people not liking this card, but it's quite good. It's pretty cheap. I mean, I'm not saying that like it should be more expensive because at 3, that's like, oh
no,
man,
3 is really terrible. It has to be what it is. Like in arena, basically, you're asking yourself one question. It's a really hard question for Paladin, and it's, am I going into the late game? If the answer is yes, Pursuit of Justice will pay it for itself, even with no synergies over the course of like 4 turns or something. But if you are not getting to the late game in a significant portion of your games, then this card kind of sucks, right? So you basically, I'm talking about this card as decent in something like not even the current meta, maybe the last meta. In any kind of faster or mid-range meta, this is arena. You can't play a card that does nothing. Those are generally like not good. I mean, okay, it does something this turn. If you also hero power with it, you get a 2/1. But if it goes on into the late game, and when you're building your decks, and I just assume that Blizzard's going to go in this direction from here on out, just because of all the sets they've released.
You have to assume that. You have to assume that. We're not getting a set full of like alley cats, Glavezukas, shredders, like none of those. We'll get those here and there, but we won't get another GVG situation where they just push, through Naxxramas, through GVG, they push the game in a much faster direction. If anything, they want to give people more and more defensive tools, because the more cards that a person plays, the better they feel generally. Once again, I'm not saying I agree with that, but it's one of those things where like, okay, I understand there's a lot of nuance in this statement that I don't want to get into, but Blizzard has been like going towards the direction that like, okay, we want people to play longer. We want them to be able to play more cards. We want more stuff to happen. We don't want the game to just end on turn 5, even though, as we all know, aggro takes a lot of skill, blah, blah, blah. But Blizzard wants more stuff to be played so people can feel like they did more stuff.
Yep. So Pursuit of Justice, look at your deck. This is a very good card in enough Paladin decks in a 2020 meta, we'll say. But if the game goes back to classic speed, or perhaps even faster, or even like a little slower than classic, then this card is trash. I'm just assuming that the speed of the game is going to go to where it's going to go. Okay. Priests get a whole bunch of cards. 4 cards, actually. First is Crimson Clergy, 1 mana, 1/3. After a friendly character is healed, gain +1 attack. Obviously a very good card. Just a 1 mana, 1/3 is fine. And then you have this ability that is totally relevant. Also, another minion is 3 mana, 4/3. Shadowed Spirit. Death Rattle, deal 3 damage to the enemy hero. They brought back Shadow Form also. Yeah. Like, remember, there's only like 15 cards you're getting in this set, and then they just have this like weird like, I'm going to deal damage directly to the enemy hero as priest mechanic in this set, and here's a card that supports it. In the arena, it's a 3 mana 4/3. It's totally fine, and then you get a bonus to it. Like, it doesn't matter if your priest isn't going phased, right? You'll take the damage. But that's kind of odd from a design perspective, but what do I know? I'm sure it's constructed viable.
People will find some way. We also get a new spell. It's 1 mana called Focused Will. Silence a minion, then give it +3 health. It's an interesting mechanic. As we see, Silence, they're trying to make something out of Silence Priest. They brought back Humongous Razor Leaf in this set. So if you guys remember, that is a 3 mana 4/8 Poggies, but it can't attack. So if you can play Humongous Razor Leaf, and then you can cast the new Priest card, so that's 4 mana total for a 4/11. That's pretty good. That's even for 2021, that's pretty good. But you do get interesting choices because for some enemies, you just really want to silence it. You can use it on enemies, you can use it on your own minions.
Yeah,
Cool
like
spell.
in the arena, you're not going to get that kind of busted combo, but 1 mana +3 health is not the worst thing in the world. It's not good, but it's not the worst thing in the world. You can silence your frozen minions, and oftentimes you just kind of need a silence, right? Like if you need a silence, that means that silence is worth like 4 mana probably. And then you lose another like mana and a half for the +3 health, but whatever, right? Like you don't care too much about that. It's still great in that situation. So overall, like I think it's situationally useful enough to be like an okay card, but it's not going to be like the best card in the arena, like especially on this new power level.
Yeah.
Finally, Thrive in the Shadows. We knew this card was coming. 2 mana, discover a spell from your deck. Depends on what spells you have in your deck, right? Like this, when this was 3 mana, it was still a good card in the arena, like a really good card in the arena. So now that it's 2 mana, it's still going to be a really good card in the arena. Although people were really using it to discover mind control a lot, and mind control is no longer in the game. So we'll see what other spells they have. But it's Priest. They always get powerful spells from like the expansions and stuff.
They always get powerful spells. They get tons of AoE. They get a lot of just super value cards. So yes, Thrive in the Shadows is just going to be one of those staples like you're going to see in quite a few decks. It's just really good because whatever you discover, like priests are very good at creating space for themselves. So you should be able to find the space to play Thrive in the Shadows, and whatever sort of mana disadvantage you get yourself into by playing it, you will regain from getting that Holy Nova, from whatever huge AoE they're going to print for Priest, because they always do that. It's just very like it just works from the space that you create before you cast Thrive in the Shadows to what you get back after you're able to cast a spell that you discover.
Yeah. Okay. Rogue has a legendary and nothing else. Gonna skip that. Shaman has a 1 mana 3/2 with Overload 1 and spell damage +1.
Damn.
It is good.
It's real good. Yeah, it's really freaking good. Spell damage is very relevant for shamans as well, and a 1 mana spell damage that you can just like plop anywhere, super duper useful. Not to mention its power immediately coming onto the board on turn 1, and yes, it makes your turn 2 a little bit awkward.
But so what, right? You have a 2-drop already. Like
Yeah,
it's the equivalent of skipping your turn 1.
Yes.
But you get it a turn early, and you deal 3 damage to your opponent's face if nothing else. Like, it's just really good in the arena. Warlocks get a spell. 0 mana. Ritual of Doom. Destroy a friendly minion. If you had 5 or more, summon a 5/5 demon. So, presumably, you wouldn't want to just destroy your own minions by using a card in arena. So, you need a board with 5 or more, which is really hard to get in the arena. So this is like a never draft level of card in the arena.
Yeah, it's really bad. And yes, you have stuff like Fiendish Circle, but it's not... you need cards that are good on their own. in order for you to even think about taking this card, right? It's like you can't have stupid fiendish circle. You need something like implosion, where that's just a card that you were going to draft anyways. And by the way, implosion is not in the set. I'm just saying if it existed. Okay, I don't want to get people excited or afraid. I don't know whatever you're feeling about implosion, but that's what I mean. You kind of need cards that are just good on their own that you would have drafted anyways. That creates a wide board, and then you look at Ritual of Doom, and you're like, oh, okay, sure, I can take this because I took those cards anyways. I'm gonna take them, but as of what we see right now, no, it's not happening.
Okay. Next up, you have a 5-drop, 5 mana, 4/6 demon, Fell Soul Jailer. Battlecry. Your opponent discards a minion. Death Rattle. Return it. It's a nice card. You know, pauses your opponent's minion for a little bit so they can't use it, and you get to see which minion it is. You can also do shenanigans with, you know, silencing it or whatever and making sure, or just making sure it doesn't die, and then your opponent loses that minion as an option from their hand forever. So yeah, 5 mana, 4/6 is totally fine stat wise. So it's just a good card, like a good arena 5-drop.
Yeah, it's a demon too, so a lot of ways to take advantage of that tag.
And then we have this card. You're going to hate it. You're just going to hate the fact that it exists, whether you're a Warlock player or not. It is a 7 mana bomb coming into the core set for Warlock. 7 mana, 4/10 demon. So it's got the stats of a 7-drop, like a normal freaking 7-drop. It also has Taunt. And it also has Cleave. So,
yeah.
It's got 10 health. And Taunt. So it's just kind of useful for Warlocks, because Warlocks generally really value their life. And then, if your opponent can't remove it in one turn, it goes nuts. Like,
yeah. Why do Warlocks cleave?
Warlocks are the only class that cleaves now. It's just a Warlock thing now. No other class in the base in the core set cleaves.
Yep.
This is what Warlocks do. They felt like Warlocks were too one-dimensional because they couldn't do everything that's possible under the game. And they had to add this. So yeah, Enslaved Fellward. C1, draft 1. Unless you have too many 7-drops or something. But it is really a powerhouse.
It's really good. So good.
Next up, we have Warrior. Warriors are also getting 3 cards, just like Warlock. First one is a 1 mana 2/1 pirate, Battlecry. The next weapon you play costs 1 less. It is called a Bloodsail Deckhand.
Okay.
Like,
it's a pirate, and it's good. It's fine.
The ability is not just this turn. It's anytime you play your next weapon. So you can make Fiery War Axe a 2 mana card again.
Oh. Unnerfed Fiery War Axe, which is in the core set. Not the unnerfed version.
Yeah, the nerf version is in the core set. They did not change it at all. It looks horribly out of place.
It does. It truly does.
Okay. Next up, we have a 3 mana warrior card, War Cache. Add a random warrior minion, spell, and weapon to your hand.
This is kind of like Hunter's Pack that we had with Hunters. Except now you get a warrior minion, spell, and weapon instead of the weapon, secret and minion
and beast.
And the beast. So it's fine. It's a good reload, because whenever you reload, you want stuff that can do different things. You want options, right?
Yeah, like Warriors don't have any reload really in the old basic set or whatever. So they had Battle Rage, which is not in anymore. Is that right? Battle Rage is gone, right?
Battle Rage is gone. Yes.
So this basically is the replacement for Battle Rage, which allows control warriors to potentially do more stuff. In the arena, Battle Rage was fine, so losing Battle Rage is going to hurt, but War Cache is better than Battle Rage in the arena. So You're just getting an upgrade on your battle rage.
Mhm.
And then you have a Warsaw Outrider, 4 mana, 5/4 rush.
2021 power levels. This is like the if you just look at a card like this these days, I'm like, okay, this is fine. This is kind of what you expect. It's obviously good.
Yeah,
But
I mean, the neutral rush cards are like 3 mana, 3/3 rush or whatever, right? So this is a class card version of it.
Yeah, this is just what you expect, and that's what we have to get used to. It's really the reason why they had to get rid of so much stuff. Because if we're looking at something like Warsaw Outrider and saying, "Yeah, duh, like this is what you should be getting," then some of those cards, wow, man, it's they really don't belong. Like we're talking like, you have like middle school players going up against like NFL, NBA players, just like they don't belong like in the same zip code. So.
Mm-hmm. And finally, we have a neutral card. They actually made a new neutral card because they scoured the graveyard of existing neutral cards they're getting rid of, and they didn't find one that they liked. It is a Fog Sail Freebooter, which is a 2 mana 2/2 with a battle cry. If you have a weapon equipped, deal 2 damage. This is not a good card unless you're a rogue.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, it's not even an average card if you're a warrior. It is even worse for everyone else.
Yeah, you can't rely on having weapons. You just can't. And once again, we're not talking about the legendaries. I do know that they introduced like quite a few legendaries, but yes. I don't know. Like I don't have much comment about the freebooter. And right now we're discussing the new cards. Obviously, they did quite a few changes to some cards that were people's favorites, like Boar and Bluegill Warrior. A lot of people focus on those for good reason. Like they're not just memes; they have been quite, if not relevant, at least you've seen them a lot because they've been in the game for freaking forever. So it is kind of a shame to see them get changed from charge to rush. But this is also what Blizzard wants to do.
Yeah.
They want to raise the power level, but they don't want you to go face. And even something as innocent as Stone Tusk Boar, we saw some players like really take advantage of like APM Priest. And in Constructed, we had APM Priest just like OTKing people with stupid Boar, and then of course someone like Dog, who before his BG days was obviously a very good constructed player. Of course, it was Dog who was playing APM Priest, like the OTK Boar Priest, and playing it to perfection and just like chunking people with it. That was probably like a preview of his eventual Khadgar plays.
Okay. So I do want, like, normally we're not going to talk about all the buffs that they made to all the cards because they're just like very small numbers changes that made whatever the hell they buffed better. Like Druid of the Claw has an extra attack now, but can't charge anymore. They just rushes. Like, great, right? Mark of the Wild is +2/+3 instead of +2/+2. Like, just kind of whatever. The one card though actually changed. Like, just one class card actually changed, and that is Warsong Commander. Warsong Commander, if you remember, used to give any minion with, like, I think under 3 attack or 3 attack or under charge or something like that. And then it got nerfed.
That was original. Yeah.
And then it got changed to your charge minions have +1 attack. It's because they just didn't want it to exist anymore. And now it is a whole new mechanic. It's after you summon another minion, give it rush. So rather than synergizing with minions that have rush or charge, it now synergizes with minions that do not have rush or charge, and it gives them rush. It is really good. In the arena, this is a really, 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 really good card because you have a lot of dumb minions that don't have rush. And this will make your dumb minions that don't have... It's like a broomstick all the time, right? A broomstick is a 1 mana 1/1 This is a 3 mana 2/3 that if it lives will give you another broomstick the next turn. Like,
all the broomsticks.
yeah, this is a really good card. So don't sleep on this one. The other ones are all just kind of the same cards buffed a little. I know we skipped Demon Hunters. Let's go back to Demon Hunter before we move on. We're gonna go over class by class after this for like what is actually in the core set and how those classes are going to like play a little. But we're not gonna like actually talk about every card. We will just assume that you know all the cards that exist. Okay, so Demon Hunter has 2 non-legendary cards. One is a 3 mana 3/2 Demon Outcast. Give your hero +3 attack this turn. That's a 3 mana 3/2 that could potentially deal another 3 damage. 2021 power levels. Gnarg Glavesmith is the name.
This is obviously like a really good combo card where you don't want to play it on turn 3. So you're looking at down the line. You want to play it on like turn 7, 8, 9. And it's just like, oh, I'm going to play this stuff and get like a Pyroblast, right? Like that's the dream situation there.
Oh yeah, okay.
But it's really, really, really freaking good.
See, I don't know that it's actually, like, it's really good when you get in the right situation, but I think overall, like in the arena, this overall, is going to be.
I'm not like super high on it. Yeah, but it's in those situations where like it's really good for like rushing people down and everything. No, overall, I don't think it's
like overall, I would not take this over a 3-drop, like a regular 3-drop. Like if Scarlet Crusader was in the game, I would take a Scarlet Crusader over this. Like I think
this is one where it's much easier to take if you're ahead on the curve, or if you are at least doing fine with the curve. But if you're behind on the curve and you take this, that's like it's really dangerous. You're playing with fire there because you can't play a 3 mana 3/2 on turn 3.
Yeah,
you just can't.
Yeah, and you it's very hard to like you have to top deck it on that turn, or it has to happen to be the card on your far left. If you have like a very fast Demon Hunter deck, like a really fast one where you can pretty reliably have it in an outcast position by turn 5 or 6, then it becomes a great card again. But you really have to have a deck for that. So I think overall for like your normal mid-range or faster mid-range cards, this is like a below average card actually. But again, this is like it's like the Pursuit of Justice with Paladins, right? Like in your normal mid-range deck, you don't really want to put it in there. Like you'll take a normal drop card over those cards. But if you do have a deck that synergizes with it, or you do have a deck that like just is of the appropriate speed, which you're probably gonna have like, I don't know, like a quarter of the time at least, they become really good. Okay, Illidari Inquisitor, 8 mana 8/8 Demon Rush. After your hero attacks an enemy, this attacks it too. A lot of memes about this one. Okay, so it's 8 mana 8/8 Rush, right? Which is good, but not particularly amazing for you to write home about. The trigger is that you can make it attack again on the turn you play it if it's just at 9 mana by hero powering your opponent's face or any other minion. So you could deal 9 damage to your opponent's face if they don't have a taunt on turn 9. That is a thing.
Yep.
Demon Hunters do that now.
Or even if they have a taunt, you can kill it with the 8/8 first. And then you... Right. Yeah, so it's got Wind Fury as long as you are also able to attack effectively. And it has Rush. So it's got Rush, and then it has like a pseudo Wind Fury or an interesting Wind Fury effect. As long as you are able to point it in the right direction, as in attack something.
Which is really easy to do as a Demon Hunter. Like,
very easy to do.
They got rid of Inner Demon, which is also like 8 mana for 8 damage, and Inner Demon was terrible. It just gave your attack plus 8 damage. So they instead changed it to something absolutely bonkers. Like in Arena, this is a Pyroblast that also has an 8 mana 8/8 Rush body. But you deal 1 less damage than a Pyroblast. And in exchange, you get all this. And Pyroblast is a good card. It's like okay, it's not a great card, but it's like an average kind of card. I hate using it, but it gets results. So This card is just good in every single deck you can possibly make. Because if you're going fast, this is your game ender. If you're going slow, this is a gigantic, just good-bodied big card. I don't know.
Even if you go slow, you can speed up the game significantly with this.
Mm-hmm.
It's just one of those things that can instantly flip kind of the speed of the game. It's like, okay, I'm going slow. Nope, you're getting hit in the face.
So, I don't know how constructed works, but I think this card is going to get nerfed. Like, by the way, for Demon Hunter, what they basically did is they didn't keep much of the old cards. They got rid of so much of the old cards. After, remember, they nerfed all the old cards. So they first nerfed them, then they just got rid of the cards. And they brought in these 2 new cards. And I think this one is a pretty good candidate to get nerfed. It's just... I can't even describe to you how our valuation system would deal with it. It would be a minimum of 300. Bare minimum. Like, this will be one of those game-breaking cards. Like, if we algorithm this. And
this is a 9.
We're not going to because it's complicated.
It's a 9.
Yeah. Like, this is not going to be fun in the arena.
No. People don't have fun with these things.
I just can't believe it. It's 8/8 rush that is also a 9 mana for 9 phase damage if your opponent has up to 1 taunt. Like, if your opponent has 2 taunts and you can't get rid of them, then okay, it does not have... It's not a Pyroblast. But they could have 1 taunt, and as long as that taunt does not have more than 8 health, you're good.
Or 8 attack.
Oh, right, or 8 attack.
or just killing it off. But yes, this is it's pretty bonkers.
Well, okay. Yeah, that's the new core set cards. Some interesting stuff coming. Like, it's gonna be very interesting when the core set comes. It just will be. But I don't know when that is. Probably like at the end of March or something.
Yeah, we don't have the exact date of the expansion release yet, so we'll see.
All right. So let's go over the classes. We said we do it. This is as close as you're gonna get to a card by card review of these classes, and we're gonna go through them pretty quickly. Like, you really have to go and look at these classes. We're not going to call out every single card. We're just kind of like going to give you our general impressions about what the classes are left with.
And once again, whenever you have a small core set, the expansions are going to make more of a difference than if the core set was as big as the basic classic sets that it's replacing. We don't know the offering bonus / non-bonus / penalty that they might give or not give to the core set. So I'm not saying take this with a grain of salt, but like, it's not comprehensive.
Yeah.
We're going to tell you what classes are able to do or like give some observations. But like ADWCTA said, no one can tell you this is how classes will play out. We have no idea. There's too many levers being pulled behind the curtains at Blizzard, and we don't know the new expansion. But most importantly, it's all these levers that they've been pulling with the basic classic cards, and we have no idea what they're going to do, if anything, with the core set. That's
like the big takeaway is that once they switch to the core set, your classic and basic and now core sets just lost a lot of influence on the arena. Like, that's how you should look at it. They are less important now to the arena than they were before. Assuming they don't give these an offering bonus for some weird reason. Okay, so let's start off with Druid again. Druid got hammered in this transition deal. They lost all their removals.
Yeah,
all of them.
They lost all the removals. So Savage Roar, Swipe. I like starting off with the Druid. Yeah, I like starting off with the Druid because this is the reason why when you're evaluating, you want to think of it as a new game or a new class. People get caught up in the fact that, oh, this is what they're losing. Okay, if you're going to list everything that these classes are losing, you have to compare it to what other classes are losing as well. Because you can tell me, oh, Merps, man, they lost Swipe, they lost Savage Roar, they lost Starfire, Starfall.
They lost
Okay,
Bite.
analyze that. Yeah, they lost Bite.
And
Analyze that.
Moonfire? They
I'm
don't
like,
have Moonfire anymore, okay? That's your
yeah,
standard deal 1 damage card. They
I
can't,
know,
they have
right?
no removals
They have
anymore.
pounds. They have pounds.
Okay, but that's what I mean.
Which
They
is
have no,
interesting.
like, anything that's,
But
like, deal damage to stuff is no longer a Druid thing. They just have
sure.
gain attack.
So you can see how this is an ineffective way of analyzing everything. Because if you're just saying, oh, okay, let's talk about what they don't have and let's just analyze that. I'm like, well, no, because you're analyzing what's been taken away. So let's compare it to everything else that's been taken away for other classes. If we're gonna do this tally thing,
Yeah, they're
so
like
just
200 cards
start
that
off
were
fresh.
taken away.
Start off fresh, and I'm saying this not as in just like, oh, like I don't want to deal with this. So
No,
when you're thinking about analyzing metas and analyzing games, like this is the framework that you want to be thinking about. So this is why when you guys are at home thinking about this, what's done is done. You know, you're not bringing there's no Avengers Endgame. Let's bring back these cars that I don't want to be brought back. You know, from the big evil Blizzard Thanos. They're gone. Okay, they're gone. This is a new world that we're living in. You're analyzing Druid 2.0 here.
Yep. Just, yeah. Okay. So Druid lost all of its removals, which obviously changes the shape of how you would approach dealing with a Druid, and it doesn't change that much how you deal with Druids. But Druids, one thing that no longer, like, there's not even a replacement for it, like board clears. Those small board clears, like Swipe, Starfall, whatever, that doesn't exist, won't exist, like, just no. Not a Druid thing. And Merps mentioned Savage Roar as a removal, but Savage Roar is kind of just Savage Roar, right? You don't have to worry about Savage Roar anymore. Those are things you worried about that, like, you just don't worry about anymore when you're facing a Druid. It's not that Druids don't have, like, actual removals. It's not like a dead class. They have Pounce, 0 mana, 2 attack, pretty damn good. They have Feral Rage, 3 mana, gain +4 attack, 3 mana, 4 damage, pretty good. It has the flexibility to gain armor too. Like, they have, like, basic removals. They hurt themselves with it now, and they lost their big ones, right?
Yeah, Druid is so vanilla now.
Mm-hmm.
It's just it's so boring. I'm trying not to say it in such a bad way, although it's kind of bad. But yeah, they lost a lot of stuff relative. Like, we're just looking at other classes and what they have, right? So looking at other classes, do other classes have AOE's? Yes, quite a few of them have some pretty good AOE's. They have ways to kind of like defend themselves, to sort of like kind of fight off aggression in a pretty powerful way. Do you have that with Druid? You can technically say yes. They have Mark of the Wild. Yeah, they have a taunt and like Druid of the Claw, but no, not really. Like they have decent tempo cards. They have buffs. They have some small removals. They still have ramp, which we all know is amazing in Arena.
They have nerfed ramp.
They have nerfed ramp, exactly. And then they can copy beast. But man, it really is just about as vanilla as you are going to get. So if you look at buffs, it's like, well, other classes also have buffs. Some have better buffs. They have ways to stay on the board, but Soul of the Forest has always been kind of blah. They have a lot of treants, but no
nothing that does anything with treants.
Exactly. No specific way in the core set to capitalize on the treants, because they have landscaping and they have force of nature. They have been printing treant synergies recently, which maybe they'll follow up on. It does seem to be something that they're putting more support for, so we'll see that. And that could be a thing. Like, you know, once you reach a point where there's a lot of cards, a lot of pretty decent cards, then yeah, suddenly like landscaping and force of nature, which right now are okay-ish, they could be pretty good, like once you get a lot of synergies. But yeah, the Druid is one where you look at it and you're like, ah, man, compared to these other classes, like the 2.0s of the other classes, you're like, they kind of got shafted a little bit.
Druid doesn't do anything. It's just, they just don't do anything anymore in the arena. Okay, let's move on. We're now at Hunter. So the important thing to know about Hunter is that it still has Deadly Shot, but it lost Hunter's Mark. In fact, one of the whole things with Hunter is that they really honed in on. I really like it from a flavor perspective. Is like uncontrolled stuff can be hard removal now, whereas controlled stuff is really like, because hunters do both, right? Like you have that new card that hunts in your deck for a particular beast. You also have like Web Spinner coming back that just gives you random beasts. Like hunters have both sides. You have tracking. You've always had tracking. So hunters always been the controlled and then really random. So their really random stuff is now like even more powerful, and their controlled stuff is now also even more like tilted in that direction. But they really like took this hard removal concept and they were just like, we're gonna keep that in the really random part. Which I like for Hunter. I always thought Hunter's Mark was, and they nerfed it twice already. Hunter's Mark, it's a hard card to deal with.
God, Hunter's Mark 0, then 1, then 2, and yeah, it's one of those things where they printed it even from the very beginning. It's like, wait, why does Humility cost 1 but Hunter's Mark cost 0? And yeah, you can say different classes. It doesn't really explain that level of power difference where Hunter's Mark has always been better, and yet it costs. It should be like flipped, right? You're thinking from the beginning. But I like what hunters have. Once again, we're not going to go through everything, but if you look at core set and you just want to think, well, how useful are these? Like, how good is it at establishing that base, that skeleton? This is a good skeleton for hunters, not even just for aggro hunters, although quite a good base for aggro hunter. Truly, like Web Spinner, Hatchet is just so good.
What they're missing with Hunter is curve cards. Like there are fewer curve cards in Hunter than any other class. So you're going to have to get those from your expansions and from your like neutrals.
Yep. But neutrals have picked up in power significantly recently. So it's one of those things where you're not going to have it all with your small amount of core cards. So if you are going to fill in like neutrals for anything, you just want you're fine with it being curved. You know, there was a time before where you wanted, you know, if your early game was all class cards as hunter, you're like, okay, this is good. Like this just means that the quality of my deck is going to be in the early game so much higher than everyone else's. Now neutral cards just are disgustingly good. So like you can't just do that simple evaluation of like, do I have class cards? Okay, then they're better than other people's decks. Neutrals are just as good, sometimes like significantly better, which is disgusting. But I like the package that Hunter has gotten. There's a lot of flexibility here as well. It's not just for aggro, like tracking still there. That's really good. Quick shot is just good for every single archetype. And you know, you have Savannah Highmane, which is like the limit of what aggro hunter will pick, like the absolute limit. But for mid range, it's just, you know, it's a solid minion that you can use to anchor your deck.
Yeah, and one thing to note with playing against hunters is all their old beast synergies are gone, besides Scavenging Hyena, which is not much of one. Like your Houndmasters are gone, your what the 3 mana deal 5 damage one.
Kill
Command is gone. Like, so it's not that hunters don't have beast synergy anymore. Like Headhunter's Hatchet was added, for example. They're just not as good anymore. Like Dire Frenzy's in. That's a 4 mana +3/+3 on a beast. It's just like it's like Blessing of Kings but worse. But then you shuffle 3 copies into your deck with +3/+3. Which is great if you're working with the selective breeder, but otherwise you have no way of getting them out of your deck. You have to get draws from somewhere else because you don't really have draw in Hunter. So this is like Beast got weakened in Hunter basically in the core set. It used to be very powerful and a core part of the Hunter identity, but that synergy got like generally speaking nerfed. Which, you know, doesn't impact Arena that much. But in case you're like worried about leaving beasts around on the board, you shouldn't be.
Yeah. So I would say looking at just looking at the skeleton, right? I quite like what Hunter has here. I think there's a lot of potential. Because if you look at classes, you're always gonna be like, ew, like this kind of sucks. Like there's so many, like you can point out this weakness, that weakness, whatever. Um, I think hunters have a strong core collection here
Hmm.
for now compared to everyone else. And yes, I think Dire Frenzy is by far the weakest link. It's just so ugh.
I see what they're
In,
trying to
in
do with
arena.
it, but it's just like,
I see what they're trying to do, right? And look, Dire Frenzy has played a significant role in the constructive meta
right.
for
But it's just
previous
not
metas.
not
But
arena.
yeah,
Like in
yeah,
arena,
not
just
arena.
don't worry about beast when you're facing hunter,
Yep.
unless there's an expansion that goes heavy into beast or something, right?
Mhm.
Okay. And just in case you were like, like this is one of the like, oh, swipe is surprising, whatever. But animal companion is no longer in hunter. Like,
I
how
know.
iconic of a staple is that? And like, is that really super problematic of a card? Ah,
It's such an iconic card because and because it's like his pets, right?
yeah,
Not just his pets, his
literally his pet, his
companions. Like
companions. It's part
how do
of
you get rid of
Rexar.
that?
And instead,
How
you
do you
know
get
what you
rid of that?
replaced? Like Leok and like Huffer and like the guy I never get. With you replace him with Bear Shark. That's the only drop card that exists in Hunter. And like, yeah, I guess Bear Shark is more consistent. But what kind of design decision went into saying we'll have Bear Shark in and bring it back, but we're gonna kick out Animal Companion?
I think it's one of those things where they do want to shake it up a little bit, and Animal Companion has been played for quite a while. I'm sure that I mean I can't be sure of anything. I hope that they bring back Animal Companion in a future core set. I imagine they will. It's one of those cards that um, was really good when it came out, not like overpowered,
Mm-hmm.
and today is still really good. Right? It's just one of those things that like it does take that additional bit of risk assessment, planning, everything that comes out. Like it's the perfect amount of Hearthstone craziness where it's like, okay, I could get screwed, I could not get screwed. It's very controlled though, and what happens if I get the first choice, the second choice, the third choice? It's fantastic.
You
Hopefully,
know
it comes
what
back.
Animal Companion should be? It should be a 4 mana card that reads "Wish for an Animal Companion," and then it'll just give you the Animal Companion you want.
Oh, nah, I'll take 3 men. I get what I need, anyways.
Okay. On
I get
to
what I need.
on to Mage. Mage lost two super key arena cards that you just have to know about because you'll never have to worry about them again. One is Polymorph, which means they can no longer silence in any way, shape, or form as Mage. And the other one is they actually can't even hard remove anymore. And the other one is Pyroblast, which means
Right.
you don't have to worry about Pyroblast.
Um, so a lot of people have made a huge deal out of it. And I understand. Look, Polymorph is a very unique card, but we are comparing what classes have now to what mages have now. And Fireball's still there. It's good.
Mm-hmm.
Babbling Book is I can't say it's underrated, but I think a lot of people have forgotten just how good it
Mm-hmm.
is. And Babbling Book is ridiculous. It is absolutely ridiculous. Shooting Star, like for
Mm-hmm.
how good Arcane Explosion is, Shooting Star half the cost. Really freaking good. Arcanologist and Fallen Hero, just two of the best like 2 drops mages have ever gotten. So good. Fallen Hero, especially when you can chain together like Fallen Hero, like I just remember people playing multiple Fallen Heroes. I'm like, why? This is so toxic. I hate this. Um, they still have water allies, so that's good for curve considerations. Ethereal Conjurer is back. So 5 mana,
Oh,
6/4, not 6/3. I remember when Ethereal Conjurer first came out,
because we
6/3.
were
People are like,
talking about this when they brought Ethereal Conjure back in one of the rotations. We're like, this card ain't good anymore. It's just kind of a normal premium card, like a low
yeah,
premium card.
right.
And that's why they buffed it.
They buffed it. And then Koldara Drake. I do remember the toxic games, and there were multiple where people had like like 2 fallen heroes and they were winning already, and then they drop a Koldara Drake. I'm like, okay, All right, well, I lost. But Koldara Drake has also been buffed. It's now a 6 mana, 6/7 dragon, and you can use your hero power any number of times. So if you look at what mages have kept, they also have what?
Flame Strike is 5 damage.
Yeah. That's for the very end. Look, if you look at what they have,
I'm like, you're just gonna stop because you're going by the mana. You're like the 2-drops, the Babbling Books, Fireballs, Water Lilies.
What I want to highlight is so many people focus on losing Polymorph, which understandably is big, but every class lost a lot of stuff. If you're talking like the class that really lost, it's like Druid, right?
Yeah.
Druid got lost. Druid got robbed.
But what we were talking about, I think, with Polymorph and Pyroblast, and that's what I'm highlighting with to start off all these class discussions, is stuff that was actually defining how you would face them. Every time I see a mage, these are 2 cards I'm worried about, right? And I don't have to worry about them anymore. And like, is that how you draft a mage? No, but it's about how you face a mage.
Yeah. For druids especially, like you really have to just forget everything you once knew and once feared from druid. Now you're like, oh, you're gonna buff it +2/+3. Oh my god, it's so scary. But yes, mages still have a lot of what made them magey, except this polymorph thing, right? Which is always kind of like, polymorph and hex. These are the things that it's like, oh, it doesn't matter what I drop. They can always like silence, remove it. And then, of course, there is the Epic Flame Strike. Still costs 7 mana. Deals
literally
5 damage.
Epic, as in the rarity is epic.
Rarity is epic. So you're going to get more pissed whenever it gets played against you, because they'll either have drafted it and you're like, oh, but it's epic, or they'll have discovered it from a Conjurer or a Babbling Book. We all know about like Babbling Book into just random shit. Mages have a really good core. It's really, really good.
Really good.
So I get people like talking about, it's like, oh man, I'm like, dude, they lost Polymorph. In totality, if you are talking about what classes have lost, and then like, and you compare it with what other classes have lost, which is what you're supposed to do, or if you just evaluate it, Mage 2.0, god damn, Mage 2.0 is powerful.
Yes.
Like, this is so freaking good. This is about as complete of a core set in terms of power that you're going to get. They have so much stuff. Like, they have the early game, like some of the best early game cards out of all of the classes. They have the draw, they have the damage, they have the drops, they have the like discovering spells, they have the flame strike. It's so good. Like, the weaknesses are going to be stupid ice barrier, right? If we're talking dire frenzy for hunter, it's going to be like stupid ice barrier for mage, but it doesn't matter. Cone of Cold is cheaper now as well. It's 3 mana, which matters. Like, Cone of Cold was always a little bit awkward at 4 mana. That was always a little bit too costly. But oh my gosh. Mages, yes, they lost Polymorph. It doesn't matter. Just look at Mage 2.0 compared to all the other 2.0s. And Mage is one of the biggest winners in this change-up.
So what annoys me is that Mage has Shooting Star, deal 1 damage to a minion and the minions next to it. It has Cone of Cold, freeze a minion and the minions next to it and deal 1 damage to them. They remove Blizzard. They removed Arcane Explosion. Mages have no ability to deal damage to all minions, and they changed Flame Strike, but somehow they did not change it to only deal damage to 3. Like, where's the consistency in the design? Anyway, that's my little gripe with their mage design here. But yeah, I mean, mage is good, and you're gonna get a lot of fireballs in various ways. A lot of fireballs. And remember, they may make it so that you just see more fireballs anyway if they don't add more expansions. You'll see all the cards more. Okay, next up we're into Paladins. So Paladins, nothing changed. Like, they got rid of half the Paladin cards, but it's still Paladin, and there's
Paladin still feels Paladin.
Yeah, like before we
Yeah.
were talking about like, oh, Druid lost all their removals. Oh, Hunter lost like Hunter's Mark and all their old beast synergies got replaced. Mage lost Polymorph and Pyroblast. Like when you're facing these classes, you're facing different classes, right? More tilted in one direction, more whatever. You're still facing Paladin. Just what are you afraid of? Aldor is still here. True Silver is still here. Consecration is still here. Blessed King still here. Nothing's buffed. Nothing's nerfed.
Well, Argent Protector is buffed.
Okay,
but
Argent Protector is buffed. Which actually was... I think Argent Protector should have been buffed. Like, I don't mean that the old Argent Protector wasn't good enough. I just meant it was kind of awkward, given the power of 2-drops nowadays, that this does not feel like a overstep. Just feels like a let's make a premium card.
Yeah, let's make a premium card by today's standards.
Yeah.
And of course, they have Righteous Protector, which cannot be understated, just how good it is and how much it fits into what Paladins want to do. I talked about their secret package. The 3 just work so well together. It's going to create weird situations, awkward situations. And the fact that all 3 are draftable does you no favors in terms of trying to guess what it is. And that's exactly what you want. You don't want the rogue situation where you only have like 2-3 secrets and either none of them are good or like only one is good. And you had metas where like rogue secrets were just a joke. So Paladins, they're basically exactly the same, which is weird, which is rare because
they literally remove most of the cards. And then Paladin's still the same. Like it is very weird. But we didn't talk about the mage secrets. Just to know, the mage secrets that remain are Mirror, Counterspell, and Ice Barrier, which I think are great picks.
Yeah, they're good.
Like I would have picked Vaporize over Ice Barrier, but I'm coming from an arena mindset.
Yes.
So those are the ones. So you don't have to worry about Vaporize anymore. You don't have to worry about that weird like Spellbender exception to your testing of spells. So yeah, I really like them reducing the secrets. I think that more than anything else is going to be super helpful because it means every meta you're going to have to like know your 3 secrets and then like 1 or 2 ones that get added from the expansions, and then you're good.
The crazy thing about Paladins is that they feel as Paladins have felt since the very beginning, and they managed to add this Silverhand Recruit synergy. Silverhand Recruits are real now because you have Pursuit of Justice, you have Warhorse Trainer, where when it was first introduced, like it really didn't have that much support, and you still picked it sometimes.
Yeah, and it was
and
a
now
2/4.
You definitely pick it as a 3-mana 3/4, right? Like you picked it sometimes as a 3-mana 2/3, and now you definitely pick it as a 3-mana 3/4, just pure upside. Once again, power level these days. And you have Stand Against Darkness, which 5 mana, summon 5 Silverhand Recruits, which was like before, but oh man, you make these other cards that synergize with it, you make them all better. Yeah, it's very rare for a class to be losing this much to not only feel exactly the same, but add a new fold in.
That
that's
fits exactly with what they're doing. Like,
yeah, definitely.
Paladins and Mages got like hero power support, which is really interesting, and I like the way that that's going because hero powers are one of the key things that differentiates the classes. And also, hero powers were balanced by the old system, so they feel like a lot worse now than they used to. So it's good to give them some boosts. Equality got buffed, by the way. It's 3 mana now. It's no longer 4 mana. So I can't tell you the impact of this in the meta. It is such a weird freaking card. The stuff that goes with equality is kind of gone, like your Light's Justice, your like, it's not a Librum that just comes with it. But Paladins are gonna have small stuff anyway. So like the Consecration combo with equality, now 7 mana. Flame Strike. So yeah, like I can't tell you, I have no predictions on how good equality is. I will say that I think it's going to be good. But
neutral pings are much more prevalent in today's meta than they were in metas past. And also, if you're leaning into Silverhand Recruit synergies more, then it also makes equality better, right? It's like if you're leaning into this thing which already synergizes with equality, like then that's also good. But yeah, it's hard to tell exactly.
All right, next up is Priest. So they actually did a huge shakeup on Priest, even though last year they like buffed all the Priest cards, which was kind of weird for me, but whatever. Priests have like your curve cards. Priest has one of the more curvy sets, which is a little weird, but they also have a lot of spells. I think at the end of the day, like Priest can do everything, which is kind of weird. Usually classes have things that they can't do, right? If you're talking about Paladin, they don't really have hard removals. They don't have any ways to deal single target damage outside of a True Silver, which only comes in at 4 damage. Like, they can't do any kind of card draw. They can't even cycle. In the entire Paladin set, this is unique of all the classes, they do not have a single card that generates cards, draws cards, does anything. And 4 of them are 1 mana. So the core set of Paladin is very weenie like based, rather than control based. But we talked about Druid and mages have always had their limitations, and hunters as well. They're just all tilted in a direction. Priests can do everything, just flat out. No mechanic is kind of like off to them because they added direct damage even to back. The one thing that they did lose is they lost their entire... So one, they lost Thought Steal. They still have that mechanic of copying cards in an opponent's deck, but I just didn't think... I think they didn't want Priest to have cards that give you a lot of cards. So now Priests have cards that, give you like a card, like to cycle basically. They no longer have cards that draw you a whole bunch of cards. So I guess that's a limitation. They also don't print cards for Priest that allow you to draw a lot of cards. That just hasn't been a thing for a while. So Priest is a little limited in that way on the control side. But the big pain that Priests are going to feel is that they've lost the whole suite of mind control cards. Like Mind Control being the big one, but also Shadow Madness and Shadow Priest. So you will not have to worry about those anymore. You can just play your freaking big minions. You can play your small minions. They will not be taken from you. They may be destroyed, but they will not be taken from you.
Yeah, Mind Control is just one of the... it's so iconic. Not just for Priest, it's just for Hearthstone. It's one of those cards that... it's up there with something like Pyroblast, right? Like one of the OG big cards that you look at and you're like, oh man, like, I remember this from 2014, 2015. And it's kind of weird to see it gone. But in terms of, once again, we want to look forward. So how does Priest 2.0 stack up? It's quite powerful. And priests are always weird because priests recently have always relied on the expansions a little bit more than other classes, just because their expansion cards are so either weird or just ridiculously powerful. Sometimes both. And a lot of the spell generation, especially that we've seen with like neutral, for example, with Onyx Mage Scribe, it's always been more interesting whenever you have that as a priest, because a lot of priest spells are huge impacts. Meanwhile, you play Mage Scribe with a Paladin, and on average, you're just getting like the impact of the spells that you're getting from Mage Scribe is going to be a little bit smaller. So it's good. Like they have a good skeleton. Flexibility is pretty important when you're talking about a core set. They got the AoE. They have, the big removals. Yes, they don't have Shadow Word Pain anymore.
They don't have any of the small removals anymore. You remember before, between Pain and Death and similar things, you always wanted to be at 4, right?
Yeah.
That's no longer the magic number for Priest because they lost everything that had to do with 4 or below. So now, Priest just punish being big on attack. Like, don't have more than 4 attack, and you're good.
Yep. They still have Holy Smite, so for a decent number of the small things, it'll still kill it. But if you guys remember, we've had completely tilted like taunts before, like the 214 taunts and all of that stuff. You don't got to worry about those anymore. The nightmares of that getting like Cabal Shadow Priested from you is... it's impossible now because Cabal Shadow Priest is not there. They can't even paint it to get like a huge tempo advantage. But at the end of the day, priests still, like, they got good good stuff. Like good generation, good curve cards, like decent curve cards for relative to what other
Light
classes
Spawn's
have.
a 3-mana 4/4 now.
Yeah, 3-mana 4/4. And the thing is, Light Spawn is in the same core set as the Chaplain, right? And Temple Enforcer.
Yep.
These are things that give health, which for a Light Spawn
and
is
also
health and attack.
Focused Will.
Yes, also Focused Will. Yes, you can.
The new
can
card
that
that
to your Light
silences
Spawn.
it and then gives it +3 health.
Yes, you can have that 07. It's going to be amazing.
But a combo that's here now, because Light Spawn exists, is going to be Light Spawn into Power Infusion, and that'll give you a 10/10 on turn 4. It's the whole like inner fire crap that people wanted to do. You don't got to do that anymore. Just Light Spawn into Power Infusion, both individually good cards. Like not like super power. These are not like premium cards, Light Spawn and Power Infusion, but a 10/10 on turn 4 is pretty good. So that's Priest. Overall good set. I like what I see there.
Good set. Yep.
And now we move on to Rogue. Okay. I don't mind when Rogue sucks, because in the arena, Rogue's hero power always puts it at an advantage. So you're gonna see some problems in this set. It's not cohesive. It doesn't go anywhere. There's no real theme. Yes, Assassinate's 4 mana now over 5, but even at 4 mana, it's not like a great removal. It's still like just like a good removal by today's standards. What Rogues lost, it doesn't even matter that much, because they lost their bounce mechanic for the most part, the bounce opponent mechanic, like Sap and Kidnapper. But you never saw those cards anyway, because they had to be nerfed to hell, because they were so like in terms of the offering rates, because they were already so arena unfriendly. So you're not even going to notice that. But yeah, they lost some of their best cards. They also lost Betrayal, which is not like one of the Rogue's best cards. It just means you don't have to worry about that particular positioning issue anymore. In fact, you kind of don't have to worry about positioning in the Cork set outside of potentially that mage stuff. Like there's no explosive shot anymore either. It's nice. Like your core set should be pretty basic, and positioning, I've always felt, was this weird add-on to a game in which your positioning never otherwise really mattered from your opponent's perspective. And you can just like figure out your own side, but whatever. Keep in mind, they got rid of a lot of positioning related cards. Like I was very, very happy to see that. Like Flame Tongue Totem was gone. Like just so good. I mean, they didn't take away Direwolf, but I was really hoping they would. I don't know if that counts. But yeah, okay. So that's Rogue. My intro to Rogue.
Rogue's core set is obviously a bit lacking if you look at it. It just doesn't fit as well. Like if you're talking power level, it's not there. If you're talking fit, it's also just not there. Like, contrast it with something like Paladin or Mage, which are the big winners. There's no synergies, and you don't have like a tight curve. You don't have all of these like things that like work together, and this pure power that's coming out, right? Like Babbling Book, Conjurer, Fallen Hero, like all of this stuff. You don't have that with Rogue. Now, it doesn't matter. They've never had, like, Rogues have always been a constructed centric class, with the exception that their dagger is just by far the best hero power in the game. Like, their hero power carries them in arena. Meanwhile, in constructed, they're doing weird things. And by weird, I mean very synergistic things, whether it was from Gadgets and Auctioneer, right, into this prep, the Shadow Step. Like, Rogues have always been very combo heavy, like, able to do a lot of these things at once, which fits in with the flavor, which is very non-arena-esque. And then they had, like Quest, and then like Tinker Rogue as well. So a lot of these very combo OTK specific kind of things. So I don't know if it really matters so much. Like, Rogues are just pretty good, but I will say we are at a point now where expansion after expansion, Rogue's hero power gets a little bit more worn down. Like the power level of that dagger gets a little bit more worn down. And as games get crazier, health matters more. So
Yep.
part of the reason that rogues were really, really good before was that because everything was a little bit more predictable, you could use your health a little bit more safely, and health, quote, mattered less. Games are weird now, and you taking that face damage is more punishing than ever before. So it's going to catch up to Rogue at a certain point. I don't know if it's like caught up to Rogues just yet. And when I say this, it's with the caveat that nothing really matters except for Blizzard's macro adjustments because it's so big. It actually doesn't even matter like how good a class inherently is. If Blizzard wants to make it by far the number one class, they can. But yeah, like if we're not touching anything, you can't just expect rogues to dominate using their hero powers because the hero power is just getting less and less good. And man, if you look at the set, it's like everything's so awkward. Is Plague Scientist fine? Yes, Plague Scientist is a good card if you have a good skeleton. It's just all of these like weird cards that can be good if you place them in like a stable, nice kind of like foundation and then add on Plague Scientist. But when a lot of cards are this Plague Scientist kind of style, or just an Assassin's Blade that's been changed. I don't know.
Assassin's Blade is now a 4-mana 2/5, which means it is. I mean, it was always absolutely worthless, so whatever. But it is now like super worthless. But it's got really good synergy with Deadly Poison now.
Yeah, yeah, that's the problem with it. Like, okay, you also have a Patient Assassin. Great. It's like you just need more meat for rogues. And yes, I also mentioned before that like neutral cards give you a lot of that meat, but this is just so bare bones, and you kind of need the like inner class synergies now, or you just need stupid ethereal conjurers, which are just ridiculously powerful, right? And like give you that board presence, allow you to get spells and everything. Deadly Poison isn't it? Prep, backstab, these are all super small.
Yeah.
Really small stuff. And Sprint, it's 6 mana now, but my god, like Sprint is even 6 mana Sprint. That's a thing of like yesteryear, like way before.
You say that, I'm gonna draft a Sprint in every one of my rogue decks.
I'm sure you will. Like, look, is it better now? Yeah, of course it's better now. That's on 6, but we're in a land of like the mage scribes and all of these other ways to just generate cards. So
that's
it's like
fair. But like rogues have no other draw. Like you gotta go with what they give you, and what they got is Sprint. Like I really like your point about the dagger, by the way, and how your use of health and the changing of the game has really made rogue no longer a premium class, just by the virtue of the dagger. So not just the dagger's getting worse, but like all the effects are just kind of working. The instability is just working against what the dagger does.
Yeah, so it's one of the things that we haven't really seen, just because Blizzard's put such a heavy thumb on the scale, like in whatever direction. Like when they make rogues good / when they make rogues bad, a lot of it doesn't have to do with the dagger. But if we're going to be purists and just talk about like how rogues will always be good, right? That was something that I heard a lot of like years ago. It's like, oh, it doesn't matter, rogues will always be good. No, they won't always be good. And we don't know how rogues are in a pure sense. But I mean, if you just look at the meta right now, damn, like you know how much face damage matters now in comparison to a few metas ago and many metas ago, where like people were very comfortable using like out of the 30 health, they were very comfortable using like 22 out of the 30 health.
Yeah.
And now you're comfortable using like 10, and then you're like, oh god, no, nope. Okay, I gotta you gotta plan it out after that. You gotta be like, okay, I'm comfortable using 10. The other 20, I want to keep around. Like crazy wild stuff happens.
Because like one swing of 15 of your health is gone. So, okay. So that's Rogue. Something to know about Rogue, and also this applies to Druid, obviously, as well, is that they don't have board clears anymore. Like, no board clears at all. With Phantom Knives gone, which was always the Rogue's only board clear, then the expansions never print board clears for Rogues, and Betrayal, the semi-board clear, also gone. Nothing. Like, you can feel very safe going wide with Rogue, just like you can feel very safe going wide with Druid now, because they removed both of the Druid board clears. And Hunters, which had Unleashed, but like never really anything besides that. Hunters also lost, that. Although Hunters have some board clear-ish kind of cards and expansions, Druid pretty much doesn't have expansion board clear cards that I can remember anyway, and Rogues definitely do not. So
yeah,
these identities are like very much solidifying, and the removal of these kinds of core cards, they matter. Like, yeah, Rogues only had a 1 damage board clear, but now they don't have that. And that was like a really good card that you would almost auto pick whenever you see it. So with Phantom Knives gone, you have nothing to fear besides neutral cards.
Besides neutral cards, which
can do everything now, so
which can do everything now, which can literally do everything. So who knows?
All right. Next up is another class like Priest that can basically do anything. There is no weakness here with Shaman. I was like trying to find things that Shaman can't do, and I came up with one. They cannot permanently buff stuff in their core set. They can do literally every other mechanic that is not like a specific mechanic of another class. So super well-rounded set with Shaman, and as you guys have known from the previews, and if you're looking at the set right now, a lot of cards got buffed. We were talking about Novice Zapper being added before. Like, they freaking brought Menacing Nimbus back. That's the 2-mana 2/2 elemental generation battle cry. Like it is a very freaking tight set with Shaman. One thing that they did lose. Okay. I'm not going to go too deep into it, but like the one thing that they did lose that was very arena anchoring was Stormforge Axe. I don't know if it was also constructed centering or what, but just so you know, they don't have that anymore, and their only weapon is Doomhammer now. From their classic set.
So Shaman 2.0. You could finish.
Yeah, I'll finish with what they lost. So the other thing that they lost is Bloodlust, so you don't have to worry about that anymore. They removed a lot of the like huge reach things, right? Like you see Pyroblast leaving, you see Savage Roar leaving, Bloodlust is gone, Flame Tongue Totem is also gone. So keeping the totems on the board is now no longer a swing, it is incremental. Because remember, they changed the totem. The air totem is gone, and instead you have a totem that buffs +1 attack to a random thing on your side of the board. So I really like a lot of these things that reduce swing, especially in the core set. The core set should not have that huge of a swing. Like, that was one of the biggest problems with Priest, right? Step aside from Mind Control and Shadow Madness, even something like Shadow Word Pain is potentially a big swing, and they just got rid of that. But they kept Shadow Word Death, which has smaller swings because it's just basically a hard removal. So, yep. I like the direction that they did a lot of this stuff. And the one thing, in case you're wondering, because Mage lost Polymorph, no, Shaman did not lose Hex. Shaman still has Hex. Shaman can silence. No more Earthshock, but still Hex.
Shamans have always been balanced by their inflexibility and by their randomness. That's something that Shamans have always been, I guess, balanced by. Okay, so for example, the next class that we will talk about, like Warlock, when you look at how did they balance Warlock, well, they just make their cards traditionally, they made Warlock cards just suck more to balance out by the fact that their hero power is amazing. And you have these internal kind of balance considerations. And for Shaman, it was always awkwardness. Mm-hmm. That's Blizzard's solution to Shaman balance. It was always awkward. Their hero power was random. Lightning Storm was random. You had all this random stuff. Overload was a little bit overcosted compared to what we think is acceptable nowadays. And if you look at the Shaman 2.0, they kept the power. Like, if, for example, they raised the power level of all the classes on average by like, I'll make up 4 Merps units, right? Like they raised it by 4 Merps units. They did the same thing with Shaman, basically. They didn't like say, okay, you only get 2 Merps units instead of 4. No, they got 4 Merps units, and they took away the original chains on Shaman, this balancing factor, which was randomness. Like
every Shaman card is good. Yeah. Every one of them, except for one, named Wind Fury. Every other one is good. You can't say that about any of these other classes.
It's really, really good. Like Draenei Totem Carver before was a 4-mana 4/4, so you're like, well, okay, there's upside, but you know, it's 4 mana. Now it's a 4/5. Like there's no what are you gonna say about that, right? So yes, shamans are one of these classes in which they purely benefited because the original constraint on the class, this inflexibility and this randomness, they took it out because they are trying to trend away a little bit from that, understandably so. But instead of only giving them like 3 Merps units instead of 4, they gave them all 4. So we talked about how Mage and Paladins are big winners. Shaman is another big winner. They've got like such a good tight curve, like a good curve, good spells. They took away randomness. They have Hex, which is the premier removal in the game now. And as we all know, Blizzard is trending in a direction which makes big minions harder to remove. It's not just like one huge minion anymore. It is Proto Drakes, Scrapular Colossus. You know, it's these things that they want to make it really worth it for you.
No more Mind Control, no more Polymorph, just Hex.
Just Hex. So, they Shaman just won big. Now, is it like the best class? Once again, I can't tell you, right? Like I can't tell you, but I can tell you if we're comparing Shaman 2.0, it is right up there with mages and paladins as the big winners of this 2.0 change.
I remember their hero power got better too. Like the only
Strength
ones that
Totem
they changed the hero power.
Strength Totem is quite good.
Yeah. All right, next up we have Warlock. The big thing to know about Warlock in terms of what they lost is that they lost Shadow Flame because you don't have to play around it anymore to the extent that you ever played around that card.
There was always more powerful stuff than Shadow Flame anyways.
Yeah, but like that was something that you're like, oh, he can't come back unless he has a Shadow Flame, right? Like you don't have to worry about that anymore. The rest of the stuff in this package, it's like, it's good. Nothing here, like, this is the power level of Warlock now, where like nothing is terribly impressive, but they're all pretty good. Like there's a lot of consistency here. Okay, Enslaved Fellord is really kind of the new card is kind of insane.
Yeah, the new card is ridiculous.
But like your Mortal Coil is back. Your Drained Soul is a 2 mana, deal 3 damage to a minion, but it has lifesteal, so you also gain 3 health. Like makes you feel a little better. You get some normal curve cards with synergies to like stuff you want to do, like destroy your own minions or discard. Right? Like it's just Dread Inferno still here. Siphon Soul's 5 mana now instead of 6, along with the Assassinate change. Twisting Nether's still around. Like you still have your Hellfire, your Flame Imp. It's a pretty normal, like you compare this set of cards with the Shaman set of cards, and you're like, what game are these from? These must be from 2 totally different eras of Hearthstone. And they're not. They're both in the core set. Because whatever Merps was talking about how they would just make Warlock cards a little worse, is still generally true, at least in the core set. This is still part of their design philosophy, where they may have taken the shackles off of Shaman, but they did not really take the shackles off of Warlock. This is a pretty cohesive set of Warlock cards, and they're going to be good in the arena. But a lot of that's going to have to do with the hero power. Because if you look at the power level of these cards, they still don't compare with most of the other classes.
Yeah, it's just really interesting looking at Shaman and Warlock back to back, because the philosophies that they took and the way that they unchained Shamans, They did not do that with Warlock. Now here's the thing. Expansions are a huge part of the power level of classes, and I have no idea. Like when they create this, by the way, they already know like the expansions for all of the core set. Like they might not have all the cards, but they know like the themes. They know a lot more than we know, right?
Wait, are the core
So
cards rotating annually or every other year, or
I don't think they
they specifically
kind of
said?
they didn't lock themselves
Okay.
down into anything, but I think they were talking about like a year. Although once again, I'm pretty sure they did not lock themselves into something.
Okay.
But
But
they
they're gonna
mentioned
probably
like
shift it around every year and doing whatever. Like they definitely have the entire like rest of this year planned out, so they know
yeah,
what's coming.
yeah.
Okay, our chat says they confirmed it changes every year, which is nice. Hopefully not too much though. You still want some consistency. Right. Hopefully it's like MTG style core set change.
Yeah. Sorry, I meant like it's not a wholesale change. Like they can't guarantee that like things will be in or out of like whatever core set. But yes, it's
Budov from our chat says they have an estimate of 30% card changing. They said that's actually quite high for an annual change.
That's pretty high. So that's Warlock. They did not win. Like this is just one of those where you look at all of these cards and they got some really good stuff and some stuff they didn't need to change at all, like Dread Infernal. It's always been good, but disappointing to say the least.
Yeah, I mean it's Warlock though. Yeah, it's always going to be fine. That hero power still exists, right? Like Warlock has been a pretty consistent presence. I'm pretty sure in Constructed as well. Just it's that hero power. Okay, next up we have Warriors. What have they done with Warriors? Did they change the hero power like they should have because it's an impossible hero power to balance? No. Did they take all the really insanely good warrior cards and then put them all together into a nice core set? No. Warriors are bad.
Warrior is just real interesting because the hero power, it's either trash and you sort of ignore it, or it's ridiculously powerful, right? Like we've seen metas in which control warriors, they just armor up and everything.
Like in Constructed.
In Constructed, and it shaped the way that Blizzard, I think, kind of like designed cards even.
That's why Arena Warriors Matters was a thing, because for like the entire first 3 expansions, all Warriors cards sucked except like one.
Yeah, and then Warriors, you had Wallet Warriors at the very beginning, if you guys remember. It was like one of the most expensive things. But in Arena, it's always just been unfortunate because in the early days of Hearthstone, Warriors were quite good for one reason or another, and it kind of held back like any sort of impetus for Blizzard to be like, hey, let's print even more good cards. Or even just arena acceptable cards, because why do that to one of the most dominant classes in Constructed at that time? But if we just look at what Warriors kept, they kept some stuff that is obviously good, like Taskmaster, Execute, Slam, Fiery War Axe, Frothing Berserker.
But that's the thing. Take out Frothing Berserker, and you just listed a bunch of good cards, right? Whereas you look at Shaman, you can't list good cards. You can only list great cards. Because that's all shamans have. Whereas for Warriors, you're cherry picking like some of the top cards they have that kept, and they're just good.
They kept stuff like Whirlwind and Shield Slam, which Shield Slam especially.
Armor Smith.
Yeah, Armor Smith is there, and Warcash is nice and everything, but something like Shield Maiden, Shield Maiden. You do not want that on 6. So they have some good cards. They have a good amount of bad cards. Like you just never want to draft Shield Slam, right? Shield Maiden is super duper bad. Warsong Commander is nice and it's new and everything, but once again, you have a lot of stuff that like doesn't work as well together as some of these other 2.0 classes. The power level just isn't there as well. You have too many holes, too many weaknesses in the class. It's just not great.
Yeah, Fiery War Axe days, Arcanite Reaper is gone, so your base set weapons are Fiery War Axe and then a Gorehowl. which is fine. I guess there's only enough. There's only so many slots, right? They couldn't. Also, Rothy's not here anymore either for the people who were thinking of it. And upgrade is gone. So you just, I mean, Warrior still has 2 weapons. Most classes that are able to have weapons only have 1. I think all the other classes only have 1 weapon. Am I wrong about that? I think all the other weapon classes only has exactly 1 weapon, and Warriors get 2. So that's the, oh look, Warriors is the weapon class, right? Like, kind of like deal. Yeah, all the other ones only, oh no, Demon Hunter also has 2. So those are your 2 weapon heavy classes. But yeah, I mean, it's just not, it's just nothing to write home about. They did keep Brawl, by the way. That's why I didn't mention it was being removed, even though it's one of the things that you kind of keep in the back of your mind. It's still around. This is like, I think in terms of like design, I can understand what they did with Druid, even though it's such a big change. I'm just kind of sad that they made Druid significantly worse, but I can understand. It's cohesive, what they did. It's very flavorful. I don't like what they did with Warrior at all. Like, I think this is, like, for me, the most disappointing thing that they did. Like, Rogue and Warrior.
Yep. I agree with that. Okay. We can talk about the Demon Hunter.
Yeah. I'm not talking about what they lost or whatever. Just treat it as a new class. Like,
I mean, yeah. But Demon Hunter, look, it's still gonna feel very Demon Hunter-y. They have like these they still have Battle Fiend, which has always been, you know, the one drop of choice for Demon Hunters, and they can grow that. They have small removals, right? Whether it's Chaos Strike or the Eldraki War Blades. They still have a coordinated strike, so, you know, like 1/1 rushes and everything. It still feels very Demon Hunter. Like, you still have Chaos Nova, you still have the Warglaze of Azzinoth, so it's fine. Like,
the
if you compare,
of Azzinoth, by the way, were changed.
Yeah,
they got it's you can only hit 3 times now, but it's only 5 mana now.
Yeah, so if you compare Demon Hunter 2.0 with other classes, you know, we're trying to grade it on the same scale. So it's like curve. The curve is a little bit awkward, but you can make it up with neutral cards, like we said. Does it have enough powerful cards to make up for it? Not exactly,
No.
compared to the other classes. They've got something cooking, you know. They got some stuff there. It's not as bad as Rogue, but it certainly doesn't rise to, you know, the Shaman, the Mage.
It's one of the weaker classes.
It's one of the weaker ones, but they got some stuff.
Yeah, and they're gonna ride that hero power too, right? They have the special hero.
Yeah, the hero power is always good. So it's like, if we're just looking at the core set, do I prefer Demon Hunter or Rogue? Yeah, like Demon Hunter.
And Demon Hunter Initiate, like the Initiate cards, you don't know how much longer they're going to be. They're not going to be around forever. Like, especially when some of them have been folded into the core set. So whenever the Initiate cards leave, you're left with very, very little going on here. Like, Chaos Nova Warglades of Athenos are still here. You have this new ridiculous card of Dari Inquisitor, but you're missing all of your other top-end stuff. And in fact, as kind of a general theme, some classes have big cards. I'm going to count any big card as 6 mana or above, just, you know. So Demon Hunter has 1 big card, Druid has 2 big cards, Hunter has 1 big card, Mage is at 2, Paladin is at 1.
We're not counting legendaries, by
I'm
the way.
not counting legendaries.
Once
Priest is at 0. Rogue is at 1. You could just cut all the general speed that they want you to play at, right? Like, the Priest at 0 is a huge red flag, because they are really freaking tired of Control Priest and Constructed, I'm assuming. So Priest just get, like, nothing on the high end. Shaman is at 1. Warlock is at 3. And Warrior is at 2. Like, that gives you a rough idea of the speed in which they're, like, kind of supporting. It's not a great system, because obviously small cards can draw big cards or draw multiple cards or like whatever, but it gives you an idea of how fast and slow they want these core cards to go. And so Demon Hunter, obviously we shouldn't be surprised it's a 1 because it's supposed to go fast, but in general these are very low numbers. So in the core set, much like the classic and basic sets that these are coming from, and not like the recent expansions that have really opened the gates to 8 mana plus cards, you're still very much playing a game that ends at 5 mana, and then anything over 5 mana is like a bonus. It's not like a guarantee. It's not like just part of the game.
Yep. All right.
Okay.
That's it. There you go.
We did this for 2 hours. I feel like we gave the people what they wanted, more or less. We gave them what they should have wanted.
There you go. There you go. That's so like patronizing. It's like, this is what you should have asked for, you jerks.
Okay. And before we get to final thoughts, what is your favorite neutral card out of all the neutral cards? What is your favorite one that either you're really glad stayed or that returned and is now part of the core set from a expansion or whatever?
Favorite neutral, huh?
Yeah,
you know which neutral I kind of like the inclusion of. Man, it's hard to just pick one. I would say
you can pick a couple.
A card that wasn't changed at all, but they kept in Crazed Alchemist. I've always been a fan of Crazed Alchemist. I think that Crazed Alchemist is a good equalizer card, right? It's not unfair in any way, I don't think. Like I don't ever think I've felt kind of like stupid BGH levels of just like unfairness when a Crazed Alch comes out, even though you don't really plan for it. So I like that because games are getting crazier and crazier, and it is a way to have a huge flip while kind of not feeling like you just got absolutely robbed. So I do like that. Other stuff that I don't mind being in the game. Lone Champion has always been an interesting 3-drop.
Oh my god, that was on my list of top 3 cards I hated and being included in the core set.
Yeah, I will say that like it's an interesting card. I don't like the way it pushes the meta. That's the problem. It's a little bit too powerful, right? Like, and it rewards you a little bit too much for not following the curve and everything. It like, and I don't like something that rewards you so much for kind of breaking one of the traditional fundamental rules of Hearthstone. But it's interesting. Like it's very meta pushing in a way that I don't enjoy, but it's one of those that you definitely have to acknowledge in that way. Hate the fact that Basilisk is in there.
I don't mind that as much these days.
I just
so
think
many pings now.
Yeah, I just think it's like very, very meh polarizing. I like the fact that we have Baron Stable Hand, 7 mana, 5/5.
Yes.
Battlecry, random beast. That's the kind of like, gamble that I'm okay with. Like the game is supposed to get a bit crazy on 7. Now, having said this, I'm definitely going to be angry when like I roll a 1/1 and my opponent rolls like a King Crush. It'll happen. This is sort of the crazy stuff that I'm fairly okay with. So I like it. That's one of the ones where I'm afraid to say I like it too much because I know it's going to screw me over. But I like the inclusion of that. So I think those two, the Stable Hand and the Crazed Alch. And the Lone Champ is just one of those things where you gotta look at it, you gotta point it out, but I don't like how it shapes the meta.
Mm-hmm. My bottom 3 is Lone Champ because it shapes the meta in a terrible way, I think. And it just stands out as being weird. Clockwork Giant because it replaced Sea Giant, because Sea Giant was the original, and instead is now Clockwork, which is better for your opponent gathering more cards in their hand. Like, I felt like Sea Giant was about both your minions and your opponent's minions. It's more controllable, it's more arena friendly, and now you get this card that's not like terrible in the arena or anything, but it's working on a different dimension that doesn't feel very core to me. So I object to that from like kind of like a flavor perspective. And the other one that I absolutely hate coming in is Big Game Hunter.
Oh yeah.
Like, why? Why have a screw you card in neutral? Like, and it's the only one. Like, you don't see, like, I don't know, EMP Operative making it. They took out all the crabs.
Hate cards kind of suck.
Yeah.
Like, they just kind of suck, especially in this format where, like, you really can't play. It's impossible for you to play around those things. So it just feels so bad when you get hit by something like that.
Yeah. And I'll add one more, Explosive Sheep. Like, what is that for? How is that helping? I don't mind it as much because it's not like it doesn't break a rule, kind of, or you know, it's not like super overpowered, and it doesn't break one of the Hearthstone rules. Dealing 2 damage to everything on the board is something the neutral has kind of always been able to do thanks to Baron Geddon's existence. But it just it feels like it's taking up an unnecessary slot.
I don't mind that. I mean, a lot of slots are just like, well, I don't know how necessary you are as well, but sure.
But yeah, my favorite one, like honestly, besides Yeti, obviously Yeti's gonna be one of my favorite cards. But my favorite one is Tiger. Outside of Yeti, it was just such a like Tiger and Panther. They were so well done stats wise, and I'm glad that they hold up in the current meta, that no one felt like they needed to be buffed or they needed to be excluded.
Well, here's the thing. As metas get more powerful, as things get more complicated, stealth becomes more and more useful. Stealth is one of those mechanics where it's like, okay, because the more information you're able to gather and the more choice you have, the more you're able to take kind of the brunt of this randomness, of all of this chaos, of all of this generation. So yeah, it's one of those things where if you look at the very beginning of Hearthstone, and there was also some like just misinformation and suboptimal plays, right? But Tiger wasn't like premium back then. It wasn't thought of as like a premium card or anything like that. And because part of the reason was like, you don't need stealth when everything is super duper predictable.
Yeah.
You just didn't need it when you knew what was coming or the full extent. Like there was really no RNG back then. It was like, here are these cards. The only RNG was like, do they have it or not? But you didn't like you didn't have rogues casting like druid spells, mages like with weapons, like you didn't have all of that stuff back then. So the stealth was really just not that great. And you're like, well, I'm giving up stats. And back then, stats were everything, right? Like stats were everything. The stealth didn't matter. And now the game is crazier. It's not all about stats, right? Like, yes, you still need that backbone of stats, but stats are not as important as they were before because things are just weird. And when things are unpredictable, wow, it sure is good to have a minion that your opponent can't target. And you can kind of control which way to trade, sort of pick priority targets. So it's just really interesting. Like, they didn't change the card at all, but it held up because of the way that the meta has shifted.
Yep. Totally agree. Yeah, none of the other big cards held up without being buffed, like past 4 mana besides Tiger.
Yeah.
I'm just looking at like literally everything else is either a new card or it got buffed. Okay. I guess we are going to wrap this up. Let's talk about final thoughts on the core set. Was it everything you expected? Did it beat expectations? Did it suffer from, like, you thought it was going to be more exciting or more balanced? What are your thoughts on the core set as it relates to Arena?
I will say this was very much so what I kind of expected. The only surprises were I thought they overtuned shamans a little bit, and they really just man, someone there does not like Druid. But otherwise, it's like okay, did I kind of just expect these to be what was going to be left over? Yes, I think some people were also surprised at how like um how some classes would like how much they would lose, and you just have to remember like all classes are losing
A
decent
lot of
amounts.
cards.
What?
Most of
Yeah,
the cards are gone in the game. Like,
right. It's whether or not they kept their identity, right? And the ones that really kept their identity, and also identity being beneficial in the arena, uh, those are going to be the winners. So it's like mage, yes. Paladin, yes. Shamans, they still have cool identity, but
Shamans
their
don't
cards
have
are
an
just really
identity.
good. Yeah, it's just really good. Cards are just really, really, really freaking good. And I am very curious to see what they do with the offering rates for the core set, because if you guys don't know, a lot of the stuff that they have not changed are artifacts from previous balances that they just haven't touched, but that don't make sense anymore. But this is a new thing,
Yeah.
so it's not like we're not going to be carrying this baggage over. I don't think, because it's just a brand new set.
Yeah, they'll
And
program
it
it
wouldn't.
as a new set.
Yeah, so if it is kept, then I have no idea how they made this transition, because that would just make no sense from like a programming standpoint, I think. So I am very curious, because if they are to implement like bonuses or penalties to this new core set, it would have to be from a programming perspective fresh, unless we're honestly talking about like spaghetti code here. But so that's very interesting, because they haven't touched a lot of these things that they should have touched. And now, whatever decision they make about bonuses or penalties, for the core set, it was mostly about penalties. That will be a deliberate decision by them.
Yeah. I came away looking at the core set pretty impressed with what they did. I think it came out better than I would have expected, both in terms of how faithful they stayed to classic and basic and what those were trying to do. Like, they modernized it, brought the power levels up, but you don't see the big cards that you see kind of everywhere in these more recent sets. The core set is meant to be the stable backbone of your year, and it kind of trails off after 5 mana, and I love that. I also loved a lot of the decisions they made about which mechanics, most of the decisions that they made about which things to like exclude from the core set of the like really powerful stuff. They did it because those things not just limited design space, but caused more swings. And their philosophy is pretty consistent in the core set, which is that the core set should have less swings. You can have combos, you can build a synergized deck, but individual cards should not have that high of swing. In a way that, even in Classic, right, they did. They had this super high swing. They also limited, like, in areas where they're like, yeah, I guess we should still have this card. It's like such a core thing in Hearthstone. They limited the number of classes that had it, right? They didn't get rid of Hex and Polymorph and Mind Control, but they got rid of 2 of the 3 as far as the silence and remove big things. They got rid of the and that's why I was so surprised that Hex still made it in. They got rid of a lot of the messiness of positioning, almost all of it. Direwolf still exists, but almost all of it. From the opponent's side, pretty much all of it. And it is they definitely slimmed everything down, and because they slimmed it down so much, some things were going to be a loss. But I thought that of the things they kept, it significantly exceeded my expectations. I knew it was going to be cohesive. They weren't just going to take random cards. Okay, except in Rogue. But I like the decisions that they made of which wholesale things to get rid of and which wholesale things to put in. Yes, I'm sure that it was a lot of it was constructed focused, which is why you have things like armor playing such a prominent role, which we all knew, but also of why priest is getting face damage back. Like, I don't know. But overall, their philosophy of what to do with a core set is still very fundamentals driven, which is very arena driven. And all these changes taken as a whole is in general over 75%, probably 85% arena friendly. So when the arena comes back, when this core set replaces basic and classic sets, arena will get better, like instantly. It'll just feel better.
I 100% agree. Arena got to a point, and part of the reason why I just stopped playing Arena was it got to a point where, with all of the levers that Blizzard was pulling, with all of these like new cards, just and the disharmony between the new cards and the old cards, right? All of that put together, I was like, no, I don't want to play Arena. It's just like not like it's just not fun for me. I'm quite excited about the new core set, and after the new expansion comes out, I imagine myself playing Arena quite a bit, like because it's gonna feel like a new game. It's gonna feel like a tighter game.
It's going to be Arena 2.0 because it's core set 2.0.
Yeah, it's gonna be Arena 2.0. Now, as for the actual future of Arena, I have no idea, right? Like we're still talking about the same issues we've always talked about, but as for my excitement level of this core set and how it impacts Arena and just your experience playing the Arena, oh yeah, I mean, even like like an even sort of power level. It doesn't matter what the power level is, as long as it's consistent and there's a bit more predictability.
Yeah, the design decisions, in addition to like it was always the power levels were always going to rise up a bit. I was actually very happy that the power levels did not rise up as much as I thought it was. Because, yes, there's going to be more swings in the game now, we know. But they still kept it core, right? Like, they didn't bring it up to the standard of expansion level neutral card releases.
Yes. So I'm very happy with the changes. You're just going to have a better time playing the Arena because predictability is going to be higher. You're going to have a better time just drafting because it's not just going to be like all of these absolute shit cards with these overpowered cards, just reducing a lot of the choice that you might have been able to have in previous metas. So it's going to be good. I imagine myself like playing quite a bit of Arena and just checking it out. And then we'll see. Like I don't plan on kind of any sort of actual foundational Arena improvements or changes.
I'm pretty sure those aren't happening anytime soon.
I don't think that's happening anytime soon. So once again, we're going to get back eventually to the issue of like, well, what am I doing playing the Arena when there's no support for it? But as of right now, I'm all on board for trying to figure it out and play the Arena, because it's just going to be an experience that frankly has been lacking from Arena for years now. Actual years now. Yeah.
This should have been done like 3-4 years ago. Like that would have been when a normal developer would have gotten this out. But Hearthstone was doing a lot of things. Okay. Let's end on a nostalgic note. All of the cards that are leaving Classic, give me your top 3 that you will miss the most and that you hope make a return in a future core set.
Oh my gosh.
Both in terms of flavor or just how you like it, or, you know, like you actually think it's good for the meta.
I think they should reintroduce mind control at another point.
Wow.
Whether I think they should. It's just, I understand. It's the whole Blizzard mentality of like, we're okay with stuff just disappearing for a while, right? Like they nerf things and then you don't see it for a while and then suddenly you see it. I don't mind the idea of mind control. I understand that they just want to take it out for a year, you know, take it out of the meta. I'm cool with that. But I think it's a very iconic card and just an iconic idea in Hearthstone. And It definitely fits with the scumbag priest kind of thing. So I would like to see it back in some capacity. Um, they took away like all the charges, right? So
Mm-hmm.
you said like cards. I'm just gonna lump all the charges
Mm-hmm.
together.
You want
I
the charges
know.
back?
Look, here's the thing. I know they will never reintroduce them. I
Mm-hmm.
just know because it's impossible, right? Like they've said before that like aggro was just one of those things. Like charge aggro, it's just like they tried nerfing it so many times, and I know in like 2015 they learned so many lessons. Like they nerfed Hunter and nerfed Hunter and nerfed Hunter, and at the end it didn't matter. Hunter
Mm-hmm.
was just running bluegill war, like bluegill warriors. They were running wolf riders, right? And they were winning. Like it didn't matter. The power of aggro was just so good because you're just in a game mode in which your opponent on your turn can't do anything. Like that is really powerful. This is an MTG where they can cast like instants and like do stuff. They are helpless when it is your turn. So yeah, like I wouldn't like them back for like, just arena purposes for some metas because I think it's like a good stabilizing force. But I know they won't do it. So it's one of those things
Okay.
where I'd like to see it back,
Mm-hmm.
but there are certain things which you know that they won't ever come out with a charge package. So, oh well.
Okay. That's a good list. I heavily disagree with you on mind control, but that's just me. Like if the mind control is to come back, it would need to be a nerfed version of mind control. I think like altered for core set purposes. Um, for me, like one of the cards that I really want back, and I don't draft this card often. I just like its existence in the game that I'm playing. I can't explain it any other way, and it's Knife Juggler. Uh,
Oh,
I mean, you could nerf them more if it seems too powerful constructed, but like at its power level right now, it was pretty much the good power level for a core set arena neutral. It introduced some RNG that's not too bad. Like after they nerfed it from a 3/2 to a 2/2, it was kind of a perfect, fun, neutral RNG-ish kind of like drop.
okay.
So that's a card that I hope makes a comeback at some point to spice things up. Animal Companion is probably my class card that I want back the most, just from a flavor perspective. I wouldn't touch it. I would just leave it as Animal Companion and bring it back. I think they will do it. It's too much a core part to like leave it gone forever. And yeah, those are my two. Those are my neutral pick and my class pick for cards that I want to see back.
Okay. I like it. But this is I think Blizzard did a pretty good job overall. It's
Mm-hmm.
one of those things where they obviously focused on fundamentals, focused on identity, and it's hard. Like I'm just evaluating it number one from an arena perspective, and number two just from a core set perspective. But we don't know what is coming down the pipe, and Blizzard does. Like they know kind of at least the themes and um, quite a few of the cards in all the expansions for this year. Like, they don't have everything finalized, but they know a hell of a lot more than we do. So whenever they are doing the core set, I'm sure they are looking at like, okay, well, how does this work? What are the things that we want to be focusing on this
Mm-hmm.
year? So, for example, us talking about the Warlock can be like, ugh, this is like pretty blah, rogue, pretty blah. There just might be a new mechanics that are coming out or new support for these cards, which right now just doesn't look that interesting. But once these cards that are introduced in the new expansion synergize with it, you're like, wow, that's pretty good. Okay, cool.
Yeah. All right. Well, I think that about does it. We're past the 2 hour mark, almost at the 2.5 hour mark. I think the core set deserved about 2 hours, so we're good. We're good to go here. I hope you guys who are listening got what you came for, even though we started this off very ominously, like we're not reviewing all the cards. We reviewed the core set. And I think this was a good way to review the core set, because this is what you care about when you're in the game. This is what you care about when you're dealing with opponents, when you're dealing with how to do things, and you'll figure the actual nitty-gritty mechanics of it out when the core set hits. And if we had gotten too deep into exactly what was where, it would have all meant nothing anyway when we got the new rotation with the new set. Like, everything's just so much in flux. But definitely excited about the arena coming up whenever they put the core set in, especially with the next expansion. And yeah, this is a very arena-focused episode. We will get back to some Battlegrounds in the next Lightforge podcast. And I've actually been playing some Battlegrounds, figuring out the meta.
Very you meta.
It is
very you.
I really like it. Actually, it's kind of under control. Like, I don't know. We'll talk Battlegrounds next week though, when I play even more on this meta, and hopefully they don't do anything to super shake it up in this time. So yeah, it's a good time to, if you've been out of Battlegrounds for a while, by the way, I recommend now to get back in. Like, this is it's an easy on ramp into Battlegrounds compared to the craziness that probably lies ahead with Quillbores. I don't even know. Yeah. All right. Well, that's it for me. Any last words?
Nope.
Okay. Core set revealed and reviewed by the Grinning Goat. Thank you to everybody. I want to give a shout out to our patrons also. Thank you so much for continuing to support us and the Lightforge podcast. Until next week, this is ADWCTA.
Merps, see you guys.